Welcome, everyone, to the City Council meeting for February 8th. Welcome to everyone who's here and everyone at home. And the first item up of every council meeting is a public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person who comes up will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and your ward if you know it. The timer and lights indicate what the time you have to speak. The yellow means you have 15 seconds, and the red means you're done. So we have 4 people signed up for this evening. The first one is Matt Beecher, followed by Eli Voll.
Thank you, Council. My name is Matt Beecher. I'm a member of the Human Rights Commission. I live here in Eugene, and I'm a member of Chris Pryor's ward, although I don't know the number. I'm here on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. We recently submitted a letter to your council packet. However, we wanted to be sensitive to the fact that you have a lot of information to read and thought perhaps best if we just read it to you ourselves. It reads, Dear Mayor and Council, the Human Rights Commission continues to field questions and statements from community members regarding the September 22nd tasering incident of a young man in his apartment. Recently, members from the Asian American community attended a Human Rights Commission meeting and shared concerns regarding the emotional healing of the 2 young men traumatized by this occurrence. During our dialogue, it was requested that the Human Rights Commission recommend to city leaders to release statements supporting the chief's finding that there was no fault with the students in this incident, which will help ensure that there is no public misconception that the students did anything to instigate the tasering. The Human Rights Commission supports this idea and encourages each of you to consider publicly echoing the chief's assessment that the students involved did nothing wrong. The concern is that a lack of public statement from city leadership clearly and consistently acknowledging the students' innocence has allowed significant gaps to form within the unfolding public discourse. Elected officials and community leaders have the capacity to address this critical need to restore any harm that may have been done to these young men's reputations. We encourage you to seek opportunities to highlight the students' innocence so that there is no public misperception or misunderstanding regarding this critical aspect of this unfortunate incident. Currently, the focus following this incident seems to be on the lack of transparency in the adjudication processes and instances of overly broad language being written into EPD policy. We applaud the city for promptly addressing these policy concerns. The Human Rights Commission recognizes our responsibility to ensure the human experience is not lost in this process and believes that city leaders have the power to heal the rift this incident inflicted upon our community. We applaud Chief Kearns and the department's efforts to meet with members of the Asian American community. We commend EPD for apologizing to the young men involved in this incident and laud Chief Kearns' decision to state these students did no wrong. We understand the root cause of this incident to be miscommunication and inaccurate information, and we suggest that we use this occurrence as an opportunity to improve cultural competency in our methods of communicating with one another. We extend our gratitude to the community members for their patience, for organizing around this issue, meeting with the chief, sharing information, and working towards solutions following this situation. The Human Rights Commission looks forward to serving as a resource for both the community and our city officials. We ask that you please do not hesitate to contact us as this and other human rights issues unfold in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Eli Voll, followed by Paul Dostrud.
My name is Eli Voll, and live in Eugene. Embarrassed to say I don't know what ward I am. I moved recently. Anyways, I am here to add some comments about the action item tonight that you're going to be talking about, the multiple unit property tax exemption application submitted by First Lead LLC. I work for Earth Advantage Institute. We are a nonprofit provider and verifier for several green building programs, among other things. And we have been working with the project team to kind of pave the way to achieve LEED certification. So basically here to validate the fact that this project is well on the way towards certification under the LEED for Homes mid-rise pilot. This is a relatively new rating system that is really perfect match for this building type. And at this point, this project is on track for being one of the first certified in the Northwest, and it most certainly will be the first certified building in Oregon under this rating system. My role is going to be as the green rater, lead green rater for this building, and this is unique in to the Lead for Homes rating system as opposed to the other LEED rating systems, in that person physically goes to the site throughout the construction process and verifies that measures are being addressed and being done. I'm going to be working closely with the eWeb energy management team to utilize the efficiencies there, and same thing, they're going to be visiting the job site a lot. I just want to make that point, that certification is really important as opposed to equivalent, or LEED equivalency, which a lot of buildings out there go for. There is additional cost associated with LEED certification. That's why people don't go for it, the actual certification sometimes. However, it's easy for things to slip through the cracks. Maybe something's a little bit hard to do. It gets left off. No one knows the better of it. So there's a rigorous third-party verification which really qualifies this building. To achieve the gold certification, this building would need 65 LEED points. To achieve platinum, it would need 80 LEED points. We've conducted a preliminary rating with the project team, and we're coming in at 74.5 points with 12 points as maybes on the table. So gold is well established if everything is done according to plan. Platinum is certainly within reach. I honestly don't know enough about the financing of this project to really support or refute the MUPTI application, but I do want to just put out a couple points that this building has the opportunity, if it goes forward all as planned, to really be a landmark in Eugene. It's a first LEED for Homes mid-rise certified building. It will add to the certified building stock of Eugene, and we have a handful of LEED buildings, a bunch of Earth Advantage buildings. The Northwest is really known in the whole country as a green building hub, and Oregon is certainly in the middle of that, and Willamette Valley. We just keep narrowing it down and put Eugene on the map as well. The last thing is this project is using local designers, energy analysts, and contractors, and I think that says a lot too. It's real easy to bring in big construction firms or consultants or architects from other places, and nothing wrong with Portland or anything, but that's really impressed me too. So this project moves forward. It's going to be helping the local economy and using our local workforce as well. So I think that pretty much does it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Paul Dustrud, followed by Dan Neal.
Hello there. My name is Paul Dustrud. I'm here on behalf of Dan Neal for this project. This is hopefully LEED certified project. This is we're trying to develop. I'm the designer, the architect for the project. I live in Eugene, and I'm trying to help support the local economy by obviously designing with wood. This is a wooden 5-story project over 1 story of concrete, which is a little difficult to do at 5 stories, and also to achieve LEED certification is going to be a little bit difficult with this, but I believe that by using this building style, we will not only employ a lot of carpenters from local trades, but we'll also be able to make it rather light, flexible building, but it will also be we'll use a lot of long-lived materials. And we're designing this to be primarily for professionals, but it would be utilized for students, and we've got some it's all set for indoor air quality. We have a rather unique system that we're trying to utilize in terms of indoor air quality and heat recovery systems. There's not a lot more that I can say that Eli already said, so he pretty much took a lot of the stuff out of mine, so I'm sort of ad-libbing here. But we've added a little bit of retro, sort of 30s look to the building. We've nice balconies looking off to the Coburg Hills. I believe this project serves the urban portions of Eugene well. I think it's going to add a lot to the streetscape in the university area. I believe this is a project that should be granted MUPTI tax consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Neal is next.
Good evening. I'm Dan Neal. I live in the 2nd Ward, and this is a project that I've been heavily involved in from the start. We cannot afford to build this project to LEED Gold level without having MUPTI. And so I would think that it resonates so harmoniously with the values of our community to approve this project so that we can have this historic LEED Gold or perhaps Platinum building on the East 13th corridor, that this alone constitutes a significant community benefit and one which we ask you to support. But not just for that reason, and not just for the usual reason of how it creates a lot of jobs for people in this community in these hard times. But I ask you to think about the two different visions for this property. One is the vision that we have, where we create a wonderful example of sustainable building on the East 13th corridor, a part of our community which is like a second downtown in terms of population density. It really is the core of Eugene. And if you consider when was the last time there was any new development on the East 13th corridor close to campus, it's been many, many decades. If you think about the building that's there now, it's quite a nondescript two-story building that's half parking lot, half building, with a modular structure scabbed onto the back. Currently, it's unoccupied, and it's been a crime scene recently because of the large transient population that frequents the area, especially buildings that are unoccupied. Since Peace Health moved out, nobody's been interested in renting this particular place. Although we have had a lot of interest from Greek organizations who would love to use this as a building site. And if they did do that, it would mean, revenue-wise for the city, that the city would not generate any tax revenue as long as the Greek organization was there. But this property will generate about $80,000 a year in tax revenue starting 10 years from the time it's built, and over the course of the next decade, almost $1 million in tax revenue. It will generate about $200,000 in STC money from the time it's built. These are revenues that the city will lose if the project ends up not being approved for MUPTI and instead it goes to a Greek organization. So these are the two competing visions. One which offers a bright future for the city, a structure of which we can all be proud, one which will increase the level of public safety on the East 13th corridor, one which will be highly visible. It resembles, we think, the type of structure you might see in the Pearl District of Portland or in Seattle. Nice example of Northwest urban architecture, so we appreciate very much if you would seriously consider supporting this project.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to close the public forum, and ask for comments from council. Is there any? Councilor Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank everybody for coming down here tonight. I want to speak to the Human Rights Commission. I appreciate you all coming out tonight. I know this is an extra event out in your evening and in your week, and I know that's you can count them up and add them up real quick, but I do appreciate you coming forward. I appreciate your statement that you made in regards to the Chinese students, and I do support the Chief's comments that these students did nothing wrong. So with that, thank you very much for coming down.
Mr. Clark.
Thank you. I too wanted to say thank you to everybody who came, and specifically to my friends in the Human Rights Commission who came forward here. And I too echo both Councilor Ortiz and the mayor's statements earlier that these students did nothing wrong and acted honorably, and the people who are in their lives need to know that we recognize that. Thank you.
Councilor Pryor.
Thank you. Sometimes regrettable incidents occur, and they're very unfortunate, and it's important, if you want the leaders of your community to say there was no wrong with the students, I'm happy to say that, because that's what I firmly believe. It's important for everybody to get on and to go without the stigma attached to it. So I do endorse the chief and the other recommendations that we publicly say that we endorse the students. They didn't do anything wrong.
And I will just close this out by saying, along with all of us, thank you so much for planning to come and coming tonight, and your letter and your request. And I think some of you know this, but after I met some members of the Asian community, their request to me was that there be a written letter on official stationery that said what you were asking for, and so I've written that letter, and we're in the process. I wish it could be faster. Everything takes so long to get translation done, and then trying to get it addressed to the people that need to receive it. So working on all of those things, we'll get it done, and just want to say this is exactly what you should be doing. Thank you very much, and a lot of people across the community are going to hear this. Thank you very much. All right. We will now move on to the next item on our agenda, the consent calendar. City Council President.
Move approval of items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Would you please vote? There's somebody not there. Councilor Brown. Oh, there we go. Okay, 8 in favor, none in opposition. It passes. Thank you. We'll move on to action item number 3, and that's the ratification of the unanimous Intergovernmental Relations Committee actions and discussion, and action on non-unanimous IGR actions on legislative policy from January 27, 2010. And did you have anything you wanted to say about that before we vote on that?
Mayor Piercy, for the record, Brenda Wilson, Intergovernmental Relations Manager. This bill has not been scheduled for a hearing yet. In order for a bill to make it through for the special session...
That's the next item, I think. We're just doing the ones that we all said okay for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
No.
The unanimous ones. Hold off for just a minute on that one. All right. City Manager, you have anything you want to say on that?
No, ma'am.
All right. Let's vote for this one.
Let's put the motion on.
Yep, you better put the motion on.
Okay, let's do that. Move to ratify the IGR Committee's unanimous actions on bills and approval of staff recommendations in the January 27, 2010 IGR bill reports for bills not pulled for discussion at those IGR meetings.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Would you please vote on those? 8 in favor and none in opposition. And then you're going to talk about the one that we did not have agreement on, right?
Yes, Mayor Piercy. On January 27th, the IGR Committee reviewed several bills, and those bills in which the IGR Committee is not unanimous must come to the City Council for direction. One such bill was House Bill 3608. This bill would establish several tax credits for transportation of woody biomass from forest management operations to biofuel producers, for the purchase of equipment to collect woody biomass, for the creation of energy from woody biomass, for the recycling of waste materials, and it would also direct the Department of Environmental Quality to study the siting of biomass facilities and to report back to the legislature in the 2011 regular session. The IGR committee voted their vote was not unanimous. Councilor Taylor moved to oppose this bill. Staff recommended a support position on this bill. The vote was 2-1. You may recall that you saw a similar bill that was brought to you during the 2009 regular session. That bill was almost identical to this bill. Again, you saw it under the same circumstances with a staff recommendation of support, with Councilor Taylor moving to oppose that. You took up that bill. The vote was 5-2 with Councilor Taylor and Councilor Brown voting to oppose that bill, and we took a support position on that bill in the 2009 legislative session. However, that bill died in committee and it did not move. And as I was saying earlier, this bill has not been scheduled for a hearing. In order for it to survive through the special session, it must move out of committee this week. There is no word whether or not that bill will be scheduled for a hearing, but it must be within the next 48 hours.
You want to put a motion on the table?
Sure, as is the policy to move the majority position. I'll move for priority 2 support or neutral.
For House Bill 30.
I'm sorry, on House Bill 3608.
Moved
I'll second it.
and seconded. Councilor Ortiz? Nope. Councilor Taylor, okay.
Okay. I move to substitute an opposed position.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Did you want to speak to it?
I'm generally opposed to tax exemptions. When the state needs money, we need money. And I'm not sure that the biomass facility is a good thing anyway, a good thing to support. Thank you.
Councilor Brown, did you want to speak to this?
Yes. Basically, we're being asked to subsidize their costs of doing business. $10 per load. Drive out to the forest, pick up a load of, biomass / drive it back to the burning plant, and we're supposed to pay them to do that? They're the ones that are selling this stuff as energy. That's their cost of doing business. I can't see that the government should be subsidizing that when the state so desperately needs money. It shouldn't be providing tax credits for somebody just going about their normal course of business, I don't think. That'd be like me asking for, gosh, we sell food, so every time we should be paid every time a truck comes in and unloads food so people can eat. So I have to oppose this.
Councilor Ortiz?
Thank you, Mayor. Brenda, I had asked a question at the IGR committee meeting if other, I forgot exactly how I phrased it, but other energies that are transported, do they get a credit for transporting their, like gasoline, for instance?
Mayor Piercy, Councilor Ortiz, I do not believe so. No, not in the same manner that this
Okay.
tax credit would provide to this
Yeah.
particular industry.
You know, this is becoming, in concept, this last year when we voted on this, I felt like in concept it was good, and that's why I supported it. And I don't not support it now. I just want more information, and I feel like this is half the story, and I feel like I don't have all the answers to my questions, and there are a lot of different people who have a lot more expertise around this than I do, and so until I educate myself further on the whole issue around this, I mean, in concept, it's good, you know, you're burning what you need to get rid of anyway, and you're creating electricity, but if you're having to haul it there, then that kind of, you know, it kind of makes that scale a little less tipping, and so I just kind of want to get more information around this, and so I won't be supporting it. I would support a monitor, is what I tried to put on the table at the IGR committee, because I don't want to not be a part of the conversation, but I'll see what happens with votes.
Councilor Zelenka?
My understanding is that woody biomass in the forest, once it's gone through the process of cutting down trees and all this woody biomass around, 98 or 97% of it is burned. So it's not a matter of whether or not it goes into the atmosphere or not. It's a matter of whether or not there's a beneficial use from that burning other than just having it burned out in the forest. In this particular instance, this would be a renewable resource as a biomass fuel, which is commonly considered a renewable resource. And the difference is that it gets burned in a more controlled circumstance, albeit here instead of out there, but it also has emission controls and other things associated with it, the difference being the transportation piece of it. And in order to have that renewable resource move forward and to probably get a net cleaner, potentially cleaner emissions from the burning of the woody biomass, it's necessary to transport it here. So for those reasons, I'm going to support it.
Councilor Poling?
Well, Councilor Zelenka pretty much just covered the points I was going to make.
I think we're ready.
Thank you.
So we're voting on the amendment, the substitute motion. There's 6 in opposition and 2 in favor. It does not pass. We're back to the main motion. Main motion. Would you please vote on the main motion? There's 5 in favor and 3 in opposition. It passes. Thank you. Okay. Next item up is the item number 4, ordinance providing for withdrawal of annexed property. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed ordinance withdraws properties that have been annexed to the city from special service districts, such as water districts and rural fire districts. This item comes to the City Council each January, and this year there are 11 properties to be withdrawn from 3 service districts. The properties were previously annexed to the city at the request of the property owners. Timing for adoption of the ordinance is critical. State statutes provide that any properties to be withdrawn must be withdrawn by March 31st. Otherwise, those properties will remain on the tax rolls of special service districts, even though the city is already providing services.
Councilor Clark?
City Manager, in these kind of cases, we do this all the time, and we're constantly in the natural kind of process of people annexing into the city, a good number of which are in the north part there, in the northwest part of Eugene, chipping away at the tax base for some popular things like the River Road Park District and that sort of thing. So I'm wondering, the people who live in that area have a real fondness for that, and we've had discussions about our level of support in the past and in the future. I'm wondering if there's any staff-level work being done on a transition plan of any kind, or any way to make sure that those services are maintained for those residents in that area in the event that, you know, they face even more challenging times in the future with the constant change like this.
And unless you know the answer to that kind of a question, we'll have to get back to you on what I heard you talk about was the transition as properties become annexed into the city voluntarily. In this case, what's left behind is less of a revenue base for those districts out there, and the transition from those districts to city services, what's the impact of those. We'll have to get back to you on the specifics of that, unless, Ann, you do have some.
I know that there was a great deal of work done out there on the road transition plan itself,
Right.
but that's a little bit different. I'm just speaking more specifically to services that a lot of those residents kind of count on in their present form, and as it abruptly or you know, slowly in this case changes, I think we should be taking a proactive role in how do we serve them appropriately.
Okay, and we can get back in touch with you.
Okay.
It's sort of a revisit of an issue we've had before where
Yeah.
where special districts are less able to pay for some fundamental things in their area, and so it's not a new issue, but it is one we have to keep revisiting to see if we can help people with it. Councilor Ortiz.
Groundhog's Day was a couple days ago.
Yes, exactly.
Side conversation here, somebody's got to be a bad guy, and they said I get to do it. So this comment by Councilor Clark is really kind of interesting. This last week I went and sat in on a work session that the county commissioners had around the white paper that was done in 2005. And so I'm just curious, there was no city staff there to represent our position. I think that they had hoped Lucy Gardner was there, but for some reason she couldn't make it. So I think that the county is stepping up to finally owning their part of that community, which is good news in my opinion, because they've looked to us so much for services, and it's not that I don't want to provide services, but I'm also cognizant of the taxpayers inside the city that are, you know, they're basically the services are there, and I know that when the fire department and the police respond, they don't say, sorry, you're in the county, we're not going to provide the service. So I think that it should be time again to revisit that conversation and to see what it is we're going to do down the road and how that's all going to look. And I know that there's some desire from them to do a couple of pretty innovative things, and I don't know that I'm totally supportive of it, but I do think that we need to have that conversation.
Okay.
All right. So I think we're ready. Yeah, we need a motion. We need a motion to vote on.
Okay, I move to adopt Council Bill 5020, withdrawing territories from the Willackenzie Rural Fire Protection District, the Santa Clara Rural Fire Protection District, and from the Santa Clara Water District.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Would you please vote? 8 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. Thank you. We're on to the next item, the ordinance prohibiting smoking. City Manager?
Purpose of this proposed change is to provide a healthier atmosphere and better protection for children who are using city services by prohibiting smoking outside of city-owned buildings, providing services to children such as libraries, pools, sports parks, and community centers. The proposed ordinance extending the prohibition to the curb outside of affected buildings is anticipated to be easier to communicate to the public and thus take fewer resources to enforce.
Thank you. You want to put the motion on the table?
Yes, ma'am. I move to adopt Council Bill 5021, prohibiting smoking outside city-owned buildings, providing services to children, and amending Section 6.230 of the Eugene Code 1971.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So I guess the point to make about this is we're we hope that it's a step toward making it safer for people around buildings and easier to enforce. We had, as all of us know, emails from a number of organizations asking for us to consider adding more to this. I believe it was adding city parks to this, and I'm very supportive of this. I would be supportive of a discussion about city parks, but I think we haven't had the opportunity to really look about how that kind of ordinance has worked in other communities, and we need to bring it forward to a work session so we really understood the implications of what we were voting for and saw what worked and didn't work in other communities. So I'm very supportive of this, but I'm hoping that we will wait to add anything extra to it. Any other comments or discussion? All right, I think you're ready to vote. 8 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. Thank you. And now our last item of the evening is Resolution 5000, approving a multi-unit property tax. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council is asked to consider and take action on a multiple unit property tax exemption, MUPTI, for First Lead LLC, a Danville located at 740 East 13th Avenue. This property is located across the street from Sacred Heart Hospital. The applicant is proposing a LEED certified apartment building. He has met with the West University neighbors 5 times, and they have submitted letters of support for this application.
Okay, we're going to put the motion on the table.
Yes, ma'am. I move to adopt the resolution in Attachment A approving the tax exemption.
Second for discussion.
Moved and seconded. So I'll just start the conversation out here by saying that was a great presentation tonight. Thank you. And this MUFTI's in an area that we established for that purpose. It meets the goals we've set. It has a possibility of LEED Platinum building. It's a great-looking building, by the way. Has neighborhood approval. Would have a positive impact on the neighborhood. And as you pointed out, good for the economy right now as well. So with all of that, I'm very supportive of the MUFTI. Thank you. And I'm going to call on Councilor Taylor.
Thank you. If you wanted to build this building on West Broadway, I would vote for the tax exemption, because that's a place where I think we need more buildings, and we need buildings of this type. South University is a place that's going to be developed one way or another, and the city needs the tax money, and I'm not in favor of any kind of tax exemption in that area. I would hope that there would be some motivation other than a tax exemption to make a really good building. And maybe there will be for somebody. Thank you.
Councilor Poling.
Well, I'm supportive of this motion. We all know that it costs an exorbitant amount more to build buildings to LEED standards than it does to ordinary building. And this actually is one of the first MUFTIs I can remember that is not being actually built as a glorified dormitory. What this is a mixed use with first floor commercial, and the other floors are being built are residential, upscale residential for professional people primarily. On the grading, the applicant scored 150 points, and normally if the applicant reaches 100 points, it's not a locked-in guarantee, but it pretty much is. I think Mr. Neal and the people he has put together have done an excellent job. This is a project that not only he and his folks should be very proud of, but we as the city should be proud to have this in our community. This is what we strive for, the LEED certification. I think it's an excellent project. Based on the diagram, it's a beautiful project, and I will support this.
Councilor Zelenka.
I think it's a very nice project as well, and I think it's great that developers are doing a LEED building. And I think we should give incentives to developers who take the extra step and do a LEED certified building. Despite my support for a LEED type building in this particular instance, MUFTI's not the right mechanism for doing it. We should be giving people incentives to do LEED buildings. And in this particular circumstance, in the West University neighborhood, which I represent, I think student housing, as Councilor Taylor said, is going to be built, and it would be built without the subsidy. Evidence is the number of units built outside the MUPD territory in South University neighborhood dwarfs the number of total units in the last several years that have been built within the MUPD territory, and they didn't receive any subsidy, yet they were still built. So given given also our continued general fund deficit, I cannot justify the subsidy, so I'll be voting no.
Councilor
Not
Brown.
because it's a lead building, but
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. This is kind of a tough one for me and kind of easy in another way. I've reluctantly decided to support this project, not because I don't think it's a good project. It looks really nice, and I think the architect did a fine job, and it looks fabulous, and I think it's a good use in that space. I used to use that space as a parking space. I'm going to be sorry to see that go, but I'll just park in the garage, I guess. You fulfill the two main requirements for me. You're over 100 points for the community benefit, and even more important than that for me is the neighborhood support. That's real important for me. That's why I voted against the last one, because they didn't get over 100 points in the community benefit, the one that it passed anyway, but they didn't fulfill both requirements. Also, this is a little better than some of the other ones in that the ground floor will be commercial, and the city will see tax money from that one floor, and the other floors will kick in after 10 years. It's too bad we have to wait that long. I think in future we really need to probably have another work session about the MUPD zone near the university. I think we need to sunset that. It's really hard for us to come from a budget meeting last Tuesday night to tonight and just give away $75,000 a year when the city so desperately needs funds to balance our budget. And so that's why it was tough. But yeah, I think we need to have a work session and figure out how to encourage LEED buildings without MUPTs. And I'm approving this project, but I almost wanted to say what Betty says. I would vote for it if it was on West Broadway. But the community support overrides any other objections I might have to it. And I think it's a great project. I mean, I'm not hinting that it's not, but I just hate to see the city give up $75,000 a year. Thank you.
Councilor Solomon.
Thank you. I'll say what I say around all of these MUPD conversations, and that is just to remind people that even though this is a 10-year tax exemption, the owner will still be paying taxes on the property, just not on the building. And then in 10 years, both the building and the property will come onto the tax rolls. And I just wanted to speak to the comment about MUPD versus non-MUPD projects, and I strongly feel that the MUPD projects that we've approved are of an exceptional quality, and because we get to set the standards, they really do reflect our community values. They're of just a better quality, and I think they're going to absolutely last longer than the ones that are built without MUPD standards and without the MUPD exemptions.
So I'm perfectly willing to, at some point, have if everybody wants to have another discussion about whether we've MUPD'd enough in one area or not. But other than that, I think that area is designated and it meets all the qualifications. And with all due respect to my good friends here, I would say, yes, something might be built there one way or another, but I'd rather have it one way. You want to put the motion on the table? It's already there? All right, let's vote. Six in favor and 2 in opposition. It passes. And with that, thank you all. That's the end of our work for this evening.